Nothing said on 0x Research is a recommendation to buy or sell securities or tokens. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and any views expressed by anyone on the show are solely our opinions, not financial advice. Boccaccio, Ryan, and our guests may hold positions in the companies, funds, or projects discussed.
We're waiting on the milkman to join us.
Fucking velvet milkman, and he just won't come on. He just messaged me saying, "How do I get on?" Which doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. But, I saw that he just had a podcast released yesterday, and he was also on Unchained like 2 months ago. I mean, he's a very public figure. He clearly does a lot of talk. So I don't know if he's just egging us on.
What is Yeah, I didn't know the milkman was going around on a podcast tour. That's
Milkman's on a podcast tour. Figment Capital needs to let him speak more and more, because
let him speak freely.
If it's anything like slots, there we go.
Please speak freely.
Hello, Jim.
Hey, what's going on? How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Welcome on.
Welcome. We're already live. Just FYI, just in case.
Okay.
Jim, do you want to give a short intro and then we can dive in and I can bug you with some questions?
Yeah, I don't even know what what are we talking about today?
It's gonna be fun.
Okay, cool, awesome. Yeah, so I'm Jim. I'm not a debt developer. I'm actually the managing partner at Figment Capital. We're an early stage venture fund. We're focused on like DeFi infrastructure. Been around since 2021. We're a pretty small team. There's Rob in the background. Dougie's over there. 3 guys in a room trying to make things happen. Other than that, I'm also an active participant in the 0x Research Telegram chat. I don't know whether I'm on the left curve, the right curve, or the middle of the curve. I presumably on the downslope of the left, if I had to guess. But there's like a lot of smart people in there, so I don't take it personally.
No, I'm happy you're in there as well. I appreciate your takes and your slot sentence. Jim, I purposefully didn't send you the questions for today because I kind of want to take some risks today. Number one is
let's take some risks.
Great, awesome. I'm glad I'm there. It's amazing.
First of all, I'm aware that as a fund you can't chat about everything, so you can just tell me I can't chat about that, and it's completely fine. It's happened before. I guess just to start us off, I read your Hyperliquid HIP-free, not HIP-free. One of the Hyperliquid articles you wrote for Bedlam Research. I'm curious. One of my takes was, and I talked about this with Crane as well, is that a lot of intellectual capital is moving towards this perp space and this Hyperliquid space. Do you think this is a take? Do you think this is a correct take, or do you think we're still not there yet?
You mean just because of all the HIP-3 kind of launches and stuff like that?
Yeah, I feel like a lot more people are spending time thinking about Oracle design for equity perps, or how can you deploy perpetuals, prediction perps on perps dexes on the Hyperliquid, etc.
Yeah, I've talked to Crane about this as well, as early as this morning when I told him I was going on. So I think the article that we wrote was man, I don't even know when it was. It was probably 4 months ago or more, right? And at the time, I read, the spec or whatever you want to call it in the Git book for what HIP-3 was going to be was pretty small. It was 2 paragraphs or something like that, right? And I read it and I was oh, this is this is interesting. This is really cool. And I asked a few of my friends, I was hey, have you read this? Because there were a bunch of takes on Twitter and there were a bunch of Twitter articles, and it was no offense to those people, but it was very surface level. It's this is going to change finance and crypto forever, and nobody really looked at it, and most people had not read the paragraphs, literally nobody. I would ask a bunch of people, no offense, Crane included, right? And then Crane read it and was oh, this is interesting. And so the reason we wrote the article, honestly, was because we wrote it because we didn't think that there was anything good written about HIP-3 yet. And then nobody really actually kind of looked into it a little bit deeper and said what is this? And how can this be what is interesting about what is actually interesting about it? And also where does this go from here? and like what do we think could potentially be interesting about like projects that launch Hip3 markets. And so it got a lot of views, it got a lot of reads, it got a lot of like looks and like some attention, and that's uncommon for things I write. So like that was nice. And we actually became really bullish, like as a team. Like, so we don't like, Hyperliquid didn't take any venture capital, right? We're not investors in Hyperliquid. It's like, but like I hold hype myself. I'm a very terrible perps trader, as many people probably are this morning. And I think what we started to think about was like, we had like an idea of what Hyperliquid's like EVM ecosystem should look like, or could look like. And it's a lot different than I think other EVM ecosystems that are like general purpose. And so the products that we think should exist on Hyperliquid or could exist on Hyperliquid are slightly different and nuanced than like the products that could like list and launch on like a general purpose smart contract like L1 or L2 on day one. And they should essentially like, I'll try to be really quick with this, but like you have this like flagship product in the middle of this L1, right? And generally speaking, there isn't a flagship product in the middle of an L1. And so when L1's like launch, what do you have? You have like AMM, lending protocol, LST, maybe an NFT marketplace. I don't still today, right? I don't know. But those are like the foundational, like kind of like building blocks of like building an economy, right? Like stable coins. And here we have this like flagship product, like the kind of like the Burj Khalifa, just like in the middle of the city. And it's like, hey, like rather than try to build, don't really make sense or benefit at all from this like huge product that's right in the middle. Like, why don't you build like more of a pyramid? Like, sure, eventually AMMs and lending protocols and all these things, like they should also exist, but like there's actually a bunch of products that could be built alongside the flagship product that like start to like kind of benefit from and like contribute to like more adoption of perps. And so we kind of were like trying to push people to think a little bit more outside the box and like building another lending protocol and building another NFT marketplace, like build something where you have like, billions of dollars of volume that like are complementary to the flagship product. And like, that's actually more interesting.
So in my mind, this is like a prime brokerage. I honestly like, now you're making me feel dumb, but like 6 months ago when Hyper EVM launched, I was like, you don't really need anything on the Hyper EVM, but lending markets, just because I think people are just going to want to like borrow on something and then bring it onto the chain. But you think that's not a good take? You think it's not?
Well, like people want to like, I mean, I don't know if you've been on the lending markets, but it's like really tricky, right? Like the yield's really high. Like the interest rates are really high. Like sure, people want to borrow against their hype to gamble more, right? On perps. And like, then I don't know how they're paying back their loans, but like even USDC was like, there was no bridge between Hypercore and like Hyper EVM. So like, if you wanted to trade perps on Hyperliquid, on Hypercore, right? You'd go to Hype, you convert your Hype over to Hyper EVM, you deposit it into, like you're gonna probably do a LST, right? So like you deposit it into like Hyperlend or something like that. You borrow Hype, you deposit that into Felix, then you borrow USDT, then you transfer USDT over to Hypercore, then you swap it into USDC, and congratulations, you can now trade perps again. Like, oh my God, like what year are we in? Like, it's crazy. It's like, that's so many clicks, right? And part of it's due to the fact that like USDC just like wasn't native on Hyper EVM initially, because like you'd be like, hey, how do I transfer my my USDC over to Hyper EVM? And like, there's like, you transfer Hype over. And so like there's just like all of these like headaches that exist. And so I do think lending is like so yes, people do want to borrow against their Hype, right? But like products like risk finance is like one of those types of products, which is like kind of interesting. It's like it's options, put options on some of the spot assets. Obviously like Unit is building a bunch of different things, but like for one point in time, at least, it looked like they were going to be like the spot markets for Hypercore. Now they're kind of also building Hip3 markets up. I haven't seen anything. Meaning to ask, like, I haven't seen anything about Mon, like spot. Like, have they already minted that?
I saw they minted it. I think they either minted Mon or Mega, but not both of them, is what I remember.
Yeah.
But
and then there's a couple other products we think are also interesting. So there's this one called like Bounce, right? Like we invested in them, so I'll just start with that. But like they're building like leverage tokens that like rebalance. So like there's like no liquidation. So like if you're like directionally been correct on every single move, but you keep getting like blown out like on like a quick like 10 or 5% move or 2%, 1% move, depending on how much leverage you're taking on. Like this is a way to like you can stay in that position, and it just like rebalances to the upside or the downside to give you like either like protection. We think that's like a good product. We think that should exist. Like Pair Protocol is building like pair trading for like really simple like design for pair trading on Hyperliquid. Like that seems like a good product. Like that should exist. And I think there's just going to be a few more of these products that like can kind of like leverage all the liquidity and all the activity on Hypercore, and maybe can actually provide like better retail solutions that it can be very successful products and generate a lot of revenue and be like a little different than just like your next AMM or something like that.
Yeah, and you make a lot more money on it as well on Hyperliquid because of the way that they set up builder code. So it's like it's not. Like if I'm Pair, now I know Pair is an existing product that has like it's been out for some time, but they're going through some form of change. I don't know if they have yet. I assume they're using builder codes, and that's like you can immediately start monetizing it if you can get the users. Versus I feel like to build a product out like that, like just building out a pair trading product, it would be impossible almost, like without a builder codes type of thing where you can make actual money on fees, because else it would just take you months and maybe even years to get the.
Yeah. And so Bounce is going to be another example of this, right? Like they're going to be able to use builder codes. They have the team actually came from like they built the same product previously on Synthetics when Synthetics had an L1 Perps exchange, and they were acquired back then. And then now they're building. They like left and like they're building this product, and like I'm excited to use like 5x leverage tokens, which like if you look, we wound up when we're doing our diligence, we looked at like the FTX estate, and we looked at like all the assets that were listed on the FTX estate. And the one thing that like because when HIP3 first came out, we were like super excited about it, and this is probably a different story, but like we were like, okay, what isn't being traded right now that could be a market? And it, like what isn't being traded that's like really interesting. And we talked to like market makers. Turns out market makers don't have an opinion on like what assets like are interesting. They just want organic flow of like $25 to $50 million or $100 million, and they'll show up for free, and you don't have to pay them. But like they had no opinions, and then we started thinking more and more like this is like back during like before ETHCC, we were having these conversations, and like Forex. Equities, it felt like it pretty early on that like Unit was going to try to own the equities perps market. So that's like sort of not an option. Like there's nothing really to back there. And we just like, there aren't that, maybe we're wrong, but like the amount of like volume that you're looking at, it's like pretty hard. Like when you look at actually Hyperliquid's volume and you look at the assets that are trading, like on just like the regular perps, like there's like less than 10 assets that have over $100 million of daily volume. Like, yeah. And so you're like, okay, so are people really going to trade like silver perps? People really going to trade like pre-IPO stock perps in size where like the company is actually going to be generating like real revenue? Like, I mean, we wound up like kind of walking away and going like after that article, after all the research, we kind of were like, oh, like maybe it's not as big of an opportunity today as one thinks. And like I think Unit's done a really good job. I think like the equity perps have actually done quite well.
Surprisingly well, almost.
So I would say surprise, like for me as an individual, like surprisingly well. Today's a bad day to like look at them, but like yesterday, I think there was like over $100 million in like, oh no, today's a good day to look at it. Like, I mean, the XYZ 100 has like over $100 million of daily volume. So like $140 million. Like NVIDIA has over 50. Like that's That's really good. Like 140 is like, that puts it over like Farcoin right now and puts it in the top like 7, I think, if I'm looking at this correct, like really quickly, like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Perps market's trading on Hyperliquid right now. That's impressive. That's awesome.
Yeah, perp dexes are super top heavy. I guess like perpetual volumes are like, it's mostly BTC ETH. Even
Yeah.
doesn't really. I'm kind of sad about your take, but I also, I guess, I kind of agree is that like pre-IPO markets probably won't. It's a very cool idea technically, like, but I guess like you don't care about the cool idea because you're investing in a business, and the business has to make some form of money.
I mean, Noah would tell you yes. Like I think, you know, everybody falls in love with ideas a lot of time, and like we wind up consistently having to like check ourselves, and like we fall. Like I think everybody falls for it a little bit, right? Like the dream. I guess the question is like how is like the pre-IPO like markets like designed? Like who are the market makers here? Like do they own inventory of like the under where they can actually like hedge? Like you know, like it's really tough for a perps market or even like a spot asset to trade on a single, like if a spot asset trades on like a single exchange, like market makers are supposed to be, you know, delta neutral. And like, how are you delta neutral if there's only like one market for something? It's very hard. And so like, I think I'm uninformed on like, you know, equity stuff to begin with. So like consider me retail in this example, right? In this conversation, when we start talking about like this type of stuff, but I like and they're using Hyperps, right? And I think like there's been a lot of problems with like the asset is the asset's price is the Oracle price. And with volume this like low, I've been trying to look into, I know there's some protections on weekends and like on like some of the equity perps, and I actually haven't read it. I've been meaning to read it because I had a feeling we'd be talking about this, and I haven't read it. But like there's not a lot to read about it. Also, it's like kind of hard to find the information. Yeah. And so there is like some protection over the weekends on like liquidations and things like that. But I don't know, like what is really the price of like Stripe's like shares, and why are we gambling and like betting with leverage on something that like doesn't have a price that like a tradable price? Like who's taking the other side of the bet? And like you worry about liquidity. What I worry about is like liquidations, right? And like the actual like the market itself not being like a proper reflection of like what the value of something like presumably if it was trading today.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up because the previous two guests I had to bring it up, so you brought this up, so I don't have to bring it up. But I completely agree with you. And equity perps are public equity perps are the exact same thing. In the weekend, like yes, it's better than pre-IPOs because there's actually like some form of a market you can attach to, or like multiple markets you can attach to or anchor to. But it's also very difficult to do, and I don't know how they're gonna do it, but like you said, they have some weekend stuff. Some of them are just charging like 1% fee on the weekend for any trade.
Yeah.
I
okay.
Know how,
that's something, right? Like I guess you should close your positions over the weekends. Like I mean, it was cool that the Nvidia, right? Like so, it's like also there's some cool aspects of this, right? Like the fact that you could take a bet on like that Nvidia was going to beat earnings, and you could be long, and you could see that market like post close, and you could be long. Right. Yeah. And sure, the price did rip up like on like the news, and you could make money on that. I also saw a lot of people getting liquidated on the long, like 14 minutes later, you know, but like, but it's like, it's nice. It's cool to have this like ability to take that type of bet and to make that type of like investment or wager or trade, take that trade. But beyond those types of events, like there's a lot of, I think, risk involved, and like I think like the liquidations are concerning. Like the risk of liquidation is like people are getting liquidated enough. You know?
Yeah. Danny, I realize I'm kind of dominating, and I saw you unmute twice and I had to mute again. So please.
We're well past some of the questions I had. Maybe on the pre-IPO thing though, Jim, I think you have a good point there. Like, it's interesting to skip straight to a Perps product for something that doesn't have a spot market. To your point, like, I don't know, I would just be so concerned about being liquidated by basically nothing, like people just pushing the price up or down, and like nothing material has happened. The price, maybe the underlying like price of the thing in private markets hasn't changed at all. Like, no fundamentals there. So it's like, I don't know, you're just at risk of like waiting around for 3 years long, paying funding to hope you don't get wicked by somebody trying to close you out of that position before.
Like techno revenant, right? Or
Yeah.
like someone like, I mean, what is the difference between trading? I'll just keep using. I mean, Stripe is not a good example because it's not one of them, but like maybe it's a good example because it's not one of the ones that's like listed, right? But like, what's the difference between trading Stripe pre-IPO, perps, and like jelly? Perps. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing here? Like,
That's such a funny comparison.
well, because the markets are as manipulatable, if not more.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you had $1 million right now and you threw it into the which one is it? SpaceX perp. If you threw it into like the SpaceX perp, or even the OpenAI perp, like what's happening, right? The open interest is like $300,000.
Yeah,
I like $1 million after that, but it'll be your $1 million, right? Like essentially. And I could be wrong here. If I'm wrong, chat, like don't at me. But like, I don't think I am. I think that
the interesting thing here is like, it is something of interest. Like we've seen Vlad at Robinhood talk about they want to do pre-IPO stock tokens, and I mean, there's plenty of platforms who've like kind of tried to do this to some extent. Like Republic has some of their like, our SpaceX and our OpenAI tokens, and it's kind of a similar thing. And I think they, they're not liquid, and you can only invest so much, and it's pretty small market relative to what's going on there. So, do you expect that that's something like kind of the regulatory landscape has been changing? Do you think that that is something that might change in the future, and like maybe spot markets do pop up, and then at that point it's like, okay, perps, like let's throw the perps on top? Or
I'm not going to. We're a team of 3, and so the regulatory like aspect of like pre-IPO equities trading is like not something I spend my time on. To be perfectly honest with you, but like, could I see it? Like, yeah, I think so. Right? I think it's like it's already sort of happening. Like, there's like OTC. I don't know if you guys are in any of these like Telegram OTC like notification chats and stuff like that, but like, there are people buying Kraken shares like maybe even earlier this year at like $2 billion or $3 billion, right? So like these markets exist, and like bringing it to Robinhood or something like that, I think is interesting. I think price discovery it's valuable. It's valuable for employees. It's valuable for people who want to, for shareholders. It's valuable for retail to get like earlier access to these markets if they want exposure. So like, and I guess like my answer would be like, yeah, I think that's probably the way it works, is that like once those markets start to exist, then you can have perps and options, I guess, like maybe, but like, but that makes more sense to me. They're also just like rife for like insider trading, like, which is like another thing that seems obvious. Like if you knew the results of like if like the president was going to announce something about like the Bitcoin reserve, or if you knew what the results of the NVIDIA, like, if you work at like an audit firm or whatever, like, I don't know, like you could put on a perp and on an on-chain that like no one's really going to know you did it, versus like trying to buy the shares, like, which people would absolutely know right away that you did it. So there's like, yeah, I don't know.
We've once again come to the conclusion that crypto is very, very useful for people who are trying to insider trade, which I'm very happy we've decided.
Thanks to Uniswap for sponsoring today's episode. The Uniswap trading API solves the problem of adding crypto to your products without the hassle of needing deep crypto expertise, ongoing maintenance, or liquidity aggregation. The trading API provides access to the Uniswap protocol, which has processed 3.3 trillion in all-time volume, handled over 465 million swaps from more than 25 million addresses, all with zero security breaches. Developed by Uniswap Labs, the US-based team behind one of the most used DeFi apps access some of the deepest liquidity in crypto, combining both on-chain and off-chain sources for optimal pricing. The same liquidity that powers billions in swaps, now available via a singular API. Let's get back to the episode. As always, investments in blockchain technology involve risk. Terms and conditions apply. Do your own research.
Jim, I realize we've talked a lot about perps, but I never got to ask you my quintessential VC question, which is, what are you guys most excited about apart from perps in this case? What are you looking forward to? But this is I think the VC's dream, which is you can shill whatever you want for the next 5 minutes and no one's going to be upset.
Yeah, I mean, I think going forward, or what's in our portfolio, or
going forward, where
are you looking right now? What are you looking for?
Yeah, so I'll give you one example of something we're looking into. We haven't invested in either of the two major prediction markets, Kalshi or Polymarket. Congratulations to both teams on massive valuations and raises. But we have been using them and trying them out a little bit and testing them. And man, the liquidity is bad. Dougie specifically is in a prediction market right now where he has a $500 position. And if you wanted to put $3,000 into this position, which has generally good volume, he'd take on slippage of 25% or something like that. And he wanted to close the position because he was up, and he would have taken 40 or 80% slippage, right? So he would have lost money. He was up 80%. He would have lost 10% or something silly like that if he sold it. So clearly liquidity is a problem on these exchanges. And so one of the things we've been looking into is whether there's some solution. Kalshi is off chain, at least for now, and they market make their own book, and so it's a little bit different. But but for Polymarket, which is on chain, my understanding is that they don't quite market makers get paid to take the opposite side of informed flow, which is a pretty bad deal for the market makers. And or for Polymarket's business, because they just wind up paying a lot of money. So we've been trying to figure out if there's ways, especially for the on-chain, if there's ways to solutions for market makers to be more profitable, and if there's projects that are able to enhance or to provide more liquidity and inject more liquidity into the markets without being super exposed to directional moves in the market. And we think we found a team who's maybe building in that direction. That's pretty exciting. So we've been spending a lot of time on that. I've also, so that's one thing that we've spent probably the last month or so on. Beyond that, I mean, we led the pre-seed in a company called Euphoria. And so people are kind of familiar with that. We're really excited about the product. It's actually really interesting in times of volatility. I've got the beta version of it. I think people have mostly seen the alpha early on, and now they're seeing the beta version. And that team is just shipping something really, really complex that looks really, really simple and left curve. And that's so hard to do, I think. And very few people have actually built a good UX for anything in crypto, I would argue, or I would make the point. And so I'm really excited to see where Euphoria goes, and whether people and how people are going to use it and when they're going to use it. I'm already kind of trading my own mental model of when I should be opening Euphoria. Probably when people are really sad, it's a good time to open Euphoria and try to trade on the volatility, the little alpha there. And the other thing we've been looking at a little bit more is and there's been a bunch of articles this week on it. But we're looking at options, and it feels now is a good time maybe for options to exist in crypto, both so that you could buy puts and like maybe hedge like some of like your individual personal like, you know, positions. But it just feels like a good time, and like maybe the tech is like kind of there, and institutions are sort of here a little bit more than they were in the past. And like, you know, it's like one of those things where you go, oh, like, you know, what was trying to be built in 2018 and 2019 and just like never made it and like didn't have like product market fit. And like, I think options might be close to being ready. We might as an industry be close to getting ready for options, which is kind of cool. And we're looking into that a lot, honestly.
Do you think that like we're at a point now where IBIT, Ethe, like some of these ETFs are large enough and they have like openly publicly traded options on those products themselves? Like, are we at a point now where options on chain just make sense because you can kind of look to those markets as kind of the existing kind of pricing of them? And previously we just, you know, you just didn't really have that and there wasn't enough interest otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, it's still going to come down to what the premiums are, right? I think, and like everything that whenever I've ever looked on chain for like an options market or exchange, like the buy that's just like crazy, right? And then like if you talk to some of these teams that like we've talked to a lot of teams about it, right? We've like really kind of tried to do quite a bit of diligence, and so we talk to market makers about them, and they're like, oh, we offer options, you know, we offer like options. Like, oh, like, really? Like, what do they look like? And so we've just to like get a sense of like what the pricing looks like, and it doesn't look like anything that it's like on chain. Like on chain is like way more expensive, and then you have, like you said, these ETFs, right, where there's options on price on the ETFs. And so my guess is that like maybe the infrastructure is like maybe the chains are fast enough now. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe they're cheap enough now, and maybe there's a way to use perps as like a hedge where like these market makers can actually just kind of go and just use the perp. And like the question is like whether there's like enough sophisticated users or whether like perps are a better product. Dougie would tell you that like perps are a retail product, like fundamentally a retail product. They're not like an institutional product. And I think I tend to agree with him that it's like much easier for the retail user to like say, oh, I'm going to make 3x if this goes up, you know, 100%. It's harder for them to like kind of grok the options. But I think institutional players like sophisticated. I don't know. Maybe it's not a good time for options. Maybe I'm talking myself out of it right now. But like I think there's a lot of people who got blown up on 1010 and would like some sort of like liquidation protection. And like one way you can have liquidation protection is entering into an option, call option, or like a put option, because like it expires when it expires, versus sorry, it moved on you and you're blown out now. So like you were correct on like the longer, you thought in 3 months like it was going to be here, and like it actually got to that price, but like unfortunately the road to get there wasn't like a straight line. It was like a pretty volatile like trip to that ultimate number.
I agree with Dougie in the and you in the like perps or retail thing. Now I really like I fell down a big option because I thought they were very, very cool. Last like in the bear market 22, and back then everybody just wanted AMMs, so like or like 21, everybody like we didn't think order books were possible, so we kept building out like AMM style options. Now I think we have the order books and everyone's super comfortable admitting that AMMs are not great for trading a lot of assets. But like from what I understand, institutions in crypto have access to options already, and like that's what you're saying as well. Like, and not just institutions, but if you're a protocol team member, if you're a founder, like anybody who is able to go and talk to a market maker on a regular basis or like on a one-off is able to get these options. And if institutional flow wants options, I feel like they would want it hidden away by a market maker as opposed to like putting them on chain. Is my thing. I like, for context, I don't understand options very well. This is like the first time I've thought about options in a really long time, but like just off of that, I would really like options as well, because sometimes I want to just hedge. And I don't think perps are like, it just doesn't work. It's not a viable way to hedge. It's always, if you take on a perps trade, it always feels like a directional bet as opposed to like, oh, I'm just trying to reduce exposure. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like, so I think, and so interestingly enough, like, you know, I don't think I'm giving away any like secret sauce here, but like when you look at Euphoria, right? Very simple product. Like when you look at it, it's squares and you tap on the square. These are options. This is options, right? They're very short-term duration options that are like both long and like you have like some like upside and some downside like price that you're like targeting. And so the question like that we've like kind of pushed Euphoria for like quietly has been like, okay, cool. Like you guys are like, that means that like on the back end, there's like an options exchange, you know, and like that's really cool. And like, can you do like a pro tail version of this? Like, right? Like, so you got the left curve, can you get the right curve? Or can you offer like other sort of like scenarios where like people can price like what because like the crazy thing about it is like you're just showing them the multiple on Euphoria, right? And like there's like a couple of conversations we've had around like what maybe other versions or other opportunities exist, like using that same like kind of front end or maybe a slightly different front end and like making it retail friendly and it's kind of being like, yeah, I want some sort of downside protection. I want some sort of upside protection here. If I'm short, I guess. And so it's like a matter of just like, how do you make it easy enough for people to grok that like they feel like that they can like learn, like options are hard to learn, right? Like, there's a lot that goes into them and it's hard to learn on like the most liquid markets, like in traditional finance and like in crypto, like it barely makes any sense for anything that's been like available to the public. I think it's a little easier when it's like on the private side. We haven't bought any options or sold any options or anything like that, just to be clear. It's like not in our mandate. We don't hedge or anything like that. Like that's just it's not what we do. But it's like, but we've been asking for like prices to just understand like what it looks like and like what the price of these things look like and like for the private investors, because like not everybody has exposure to that. And I think a lot of people would have liked some optionality over the last couple of months. Like my guess is like people are like, oh, that would have been nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of vault I know we're going over time, Danny, so I apologize, but there's a lot of vault
to do. It's all good.
There's a lot of vault products that got built out. Like I think a lot of people tried to simplify it to some extent, and it just never worked out. I would like for it to work out, but I think the Euphoria approach is cool because you're kind of taking this thing that is I think crypto retail doesn't like options. Like clearly it likes perps. Yeah. And you're trying to make it something that is like, okay, well, what if we repackaged it into this format? And then it's like very dynamic. I've only seen the alpha version on Twitter like 3 times, so I'm going off the boxes.
Yeah, I chased you down. I chased you down at the conference, and
yes, it is cool. Yeah, I don't know how it's going. I don't want to speak out of my ass about options.
It's just like sort of like you can almost set it and forget it, right? I mean, so if we talk a little bit more about perps, right? Like let's like compare it to perps a little bit. The thing about perps is like you are glued to your screen when you open a perp, right? Like nobody buys like a 5x long or short perp, like, and is like, okay, let me go to the movies and let me go out to dinner with my partner and like let me go away for the weekend. Like that's not the experience. And then like let me turn off my phone. You know, like that's not the experience that anyone has. Like people are glued to their phones. They're like, oh my God, like it's just this like this like sense of dread that like the worst is right around the corner. And like one of the cool things about Euphoria is like actually the time, like people are like, hey, these are like short duration. It's not very, but like the great thing about it, and I think like what we can do is we can maybe extrapolate this to like options just in general, is like you open up your phone, you play it. When you're done, you're done. And like, okay, that was good. Like, I don't have to work. I can now put my phone down and I can go have dinner, right? And go out to dinner and have a nice time. And like, I think if we just kind of like extrapolate that to options in general, it's like, yeah, I'm like hedged here. If the price goes down, I'm gonna like buy here. I'm like, I guess I'm a forced buyer maybe at this price, or I'm like a forced seller at this price. But like that's okay. That's what I want. And I think I think we'll see more experimentation around that, like over the and like if anyone's building an options platform, like particularly if you're like using perps on the back end on Hyperliquid, like let us know. Please reach out. But just in general, I think like we're interested to like learn more and see what people are experimenting with right now.
Yeah, maybe I'll just add to what you're saying, because I think I agree with a lot of it. Is like the top heaviness that we discussed with perps, like the same exists for options even in the equities world. It's like if you go to a smaller stock way out on the expiration date, it's like, yeah, there's not going to be a lot of volume there. Same goes like if you wanted to have an option on Jelly, like no one's going to be trading that, but I'm sure the BTC book could be quite full. So I think it's just one of those things where it's like, this is something that, I mean, the industry has talked about a lot, and it's like, yeah, options for like probably BTC, ETH, like some of these core majors could be pretty meaningful. And I don't know, maybe there's just a disconnect when these products like try to position it or sell it to retail. It's like, where's the option for, next June on Bonk? Like, I want to have a bunch of liquidity on that. It's like, it might just be tough to like fill that particular spot in the market, but there's probably plenty of capital that, like you're saying, would be interested enough to, hedge or get, asymmetric upside maybe on like BTC or something based on their view of the next 12, 18 months or next 3 months or something along those lines, and then not get liquidated.
Yeah, I mean, we have to ask ourselves, like, what are the market makers doing that are offering these options, like on the other side, right, to the private side? And like, my guess is that they're in perps, right? Like, my guess is they're in the perps, like they're hedging it in perps and charging you like a flat fee, and it's like up to them to like figure out the math and the calculations. But like, if they're doing it off chain, then like my guess is there's like a way to do it, or not. Yeah, my guess is there's a way to do it on chain, and like it's going to take some like ingenuity, but like my guess is it's probably doable.
Yeah. Okay. Jim, thank you so much for coming on. This was very fun, to the point that I'm going to ask you probably again. And
dude, let's do it. I mean, I've literally been hitting the slots, literally waiting for this invite. It took forever. In case you're wondering how long it takes to get invited to the 0x research.
Is there on like 800 slot stickers for context? But
it takes 800 times. You have to send 800 times. So if anyone's in the chat, please hit the slot machine 800 times in a row right now, and you are the next guest on 0x research.
No, this was really fun. I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate you coming on despite me not sending you questions. There is a reason for that, okay. And the reason for that is that I think it's much better if I already have the questions in my mind. I think it makes much more sense if we're doing one-to-one conversationally. So I hope you didn't mind it too much.
The reason is that he didn't prepare anything, so we just
not questions. I didn't know what the topic of conversation was going to be.
We do it live.
Also kind of fun.
Yeah, he didn't think about it until you shut up. That's why.
I pulled it all up.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. A big fan.
Thanks for coming on.
The chat is one of the best chats like I've ever been in, so it's amazing. I spend too much time in it, but like that's just
okay. Outsource all work to Dougie. Just send in the slot stickers. That's it.
Dougie, get to work. No, he's not even there. But yeah, thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, Jim.
See you guys.
Big day for us today.
All right. We said we were going to take some risks. I don't know if we took enough risks, so we'll have to have him on again.
That's just kind of what I do to stress people out. I did I can't make this joke live, but I'll tell you about it in private.
I promise you guys, it's going to be really funny.
This is related to something completely different. Okay. Danny, shall I close us out? We should also let Will go because I'm pretty sure he wants to. It's Friday night. I'm pretty sure he just wants
to producer wants to get out on the streets. He doesn't want to be hearing about crypto options. He's fucking bored of that. Yeah. Close it up. Say what you want to say.
Guys, thank you so much for... Oh, that's you. Wait, can you just mimic me? No, Danny, go back. There
Yep.
we go. Guys, thank you so much for coming on today. This was extremely fun. To all of our listeners, thank you so much for listening to us.